Kieran from Illuvium is here, and this past year there's just been so much going on with the ecosystem. As we know from 2021, your project absolutely exploded, so much hype, but not your fault. Crypto gaming winter happened. There had to be some huge pivots, which we're going to dive into this video. But first off, before we get into that, I just want to welcome you, and how are things going in general at Illuvium?
They're going well. As we discussed before the show, it's been some pretty dark times the last 12 to 18 months, but we have to take our medicine. I think it's funny you say it's not your fault. I take a different sort of look at it, and I'm like, it was our fault, right? Like, we launched a bunch of stuff. It was too early. It didn't have product market fit. And so, we just had to take our medicine, accept it, suck it up. It was a lot of, let's call it hate online. And so navigating through that, but also just accepting, uh, you know, accountability for delivering something that didn't live up to the expectations that we'd sort of built up. But now that we've gotten through that period, we've just launched, we've just relaunched Arena. It's in a really, really polished state. We're getting a lot of good feedback from top team fight tactics players that previously played in 22 and are now playing again, that are sharing some great feedback. So that's really helping with sentiment. And we're full steam ahead on transforming the original Overworld into an MMO.
Nice. And there's so much to unpack there. It's cool that you're taking ownership of it. Yes, there was some deliverables that didn't really go along with community, but when sentiment's down, it's hard. But it's cool to see that you guys pivoted. We have some friends like Neon Heroes. Unfortunately, they weren't able to pivot and going. They had the shutdown. So it's really great to see Illuvium chugging along. But for those that don't know, can you let us know a little bit about like the team reshuffling, also the pivot from the MMO to the MMO Lite, what that means for players, and then we'll get into Arena after?
Yep, for sure. So we had to make the hard call. Uh, it started last year, and it was sort of a slow burn where we went from 200 people in our studio at our peak, and we slowly started chipping away at that, and we got down to about 100, and which obviously massively reduced our burn rate, which is what we were trying to do. And then earlier this year, we had another look at it, and we said, look, the outlook in crypto is hazy at best. We need to get this burn rate down. Where I think we were at about 900K there, and now we made the tough call to um, downsize by about half, which we're as lean as we can probably go now with as many products as we have and what we're building. But we're down to about 55 people in the studio. The cool thing there is what we have left is basically all of our like OG builders that are like heads of their department. They've been doing what they've been doing for many, many years. We basically don't have juniors or anything like that. And so our actual output pace has gone up, funnily enough, which is kind of crazy in some factors. Let's put it something like that. Yeah, there's obviously like art department, which is just raw work that needs to get done. But in terms of like decision making and not having so many like diffusion of responsibility across the organization, it's like, well, that's the only guy who's in that department, so he's responsible,
Yeah.
you know? Uh, so that's actually been
Have AI tools been able to help out with the process?
100%, 100%. So in marketing, we now have one person and myself. I obviously dabble a lot in the marketing side of things, but for us to be able to run what we're doing, there's a lot of efficiencies that we've made with AI tooling.
That's all. It's amazing what you can do. I was just talking to the team at Anychest and CoinFest in Bali, and they spent 2 years building their product. And then in 2 weeks they vibe coded like a product that's doing better than their original product, and it's funny all the advancements. So the team might be getting a bit smaller and more streamlined, but you've got the tools
Sort of that.
to help pick up the slack, which is nice. So that's really cool and good to hear. And then can you let us know like what was the big change with the MMO to MMO Lite, how it affects players' vision for the future?
So this is an interesting one, and the reason I say that is it's more rebranding, right? Like our plan with Overworld was always to have immersive combat, to have quests where you can go and fight raid bosses, get awesome unique loots that you can go and put on the marketplace, and all of these things that make up an MMO, like the social side of it, being able to chat to other people, playing in a multiplayer environment. Like Overworld now is just you in that like a Zelda type situation, whereas as soon as we started testing like what multiplayer looks like, it completely changed the game. Like it goes from, you know, 0 to 100 really, really, really quick. But that was always the plan. Now, the issue that we had was, first of all, we were spread too thin. We had Zero, which we were building, we had Arena, which we were building, and Overworld. And so we just didn't have enough manpower to be able to build out the final product. And then when we were getting pressure from investors, because originally it was meant to just be, a very simple game where you collect the alluvials, you take them into arena, and you battle them. The scope got bigger and bigger and bigger, and that pushed out our deadlines to a point where investors were like, if you don't launch this, we don't care anymore. We're out, right? And so we, I still think it was the wrong idea to launch. I wish we didn't, and we just built it up, even to the point where we are now, where there is multiplayer, there is combat, and like not ready yet, but at a good enough stake, and we succumbed to that pressure, and we released it, and it was our worst nightmare, right? People going in there, they loved it for the first like week because you're like, this is beautiful. Like the game is so polished in terms of like the aesthetics. You love capturing the alluvials, but then slowly over time, you're like, okay, this is a little bit monotonous. I'm not having as much fun. And then it very, very quickly ends up at about the like month point, retention just went off a cliff, right? And so again, we had to suck up our medicine. We knew we had such a good base, right? Like such an amazing world where adding quests in was an easy part, right? Like adding multiplayer in is easy compared to like doing all of that front loaded work which we had to do to get Overworld into the state it is now. So when we said, okay, it's now going to be an MMO light, we wanted to make sure that there was a distinction between what the game is now and what it's going to be. And I feel like if we're like, hey, we're just upgrading the overworld, the amount of people that would say, no, I'm not even going to give it a shot because I played that game and I know what it's like. Maybe there's a couple of improvements, but I'm looking for that full experience. So it was more a marketing sort of rebrand there.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess what's it like as a founder in the world of crypto gaming where most games, whether it be like, a Rainbow Six or a Call of Duty Warzone or even like a Elder Scrolls where you get the game when it's ready and the community start playing when it's ready, whereas in the crypto gaming side we've seemed to like completely flip that, and like you're in the alphas and the betas and maybe you're expecting what you'd get from like another studio who's been building for 4 or 8 years behind the scenes. What's it like trying to deal with that? And is there a message that you would have to the community about like what that's like and how things are coming out?
So uh it has its pros and its cons. Without a doubt, it has its pros and its cons. So the ability for us to get feedback along the way and iterate our product because it was live in such a raw state allows you to tinker with things, and you're not sort of like sitting back going like, we've just been building this for half a decade or a decade. We have no idea what anyone's going to think. Let's just shove it in their face. That's the pro, right? Like you get these ambassadors, these like almost QA engineers that play the game. They give you really awesome feedback that you can go and improve the game. So that's the positive side of it. And I think you get like these people who are entrenched in your IP because they've been here from the start. So they're seeing the characters be built over time. They're seeing the world come to life and they're like, well, I'm a part of this, and they've also bought a small piece of the project. So they're an investor. So that creates these like raving fans, which really, really has some big network effects when it comes to marketing. And they will be the first ones to defend you and try and block out the FUDs and all of that kind of stuff. So big advantages there. But then what the trap that we sort of fell into is that external pressure. Instead of us building in a silo, we have people who are like, release this game now. And, you said it would be here. A delay is met with investor sell off, not so much like just I'm disappointed because I wanted to play this game. And so that external pressure has the potential to make founders make decisions that they normally wouldn't. And so my advice would be, your product as a founder, your product better than anyone. If you don't think it's ready, no matter what anyone says, almost in every single case, it is better to ensure that the product is ready and at the standard that you set personally from the beginning. And just any of the hate, it's nowhere near the hate level that you get if you just say, oh, okay, guys, I'll release it. Then you're really, really going to know. And that's sort of what we got. And, I was so I was not scared, but I just didn't want to disappoint people. And we held them off for such a long time, but we should have held off longer. And I don't think that would have happened if we weren't building so, transparently or publicly. And yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you actually would have been able to like hold off, or just not possible? They would have pulled out the money and you just couldn't have done it.
Well, this is the thing. It didn't matter, right? Like our token price was at like $130 or whatever at the time. And, that's what it was all about. Like we were scared. Oh, if we don't release this, what if the token goes down to 50? Like, oh my God, that would be like, we started there. How bad would that be? We can't let that happen. But we decided, okay, let's get it out. And then everyone plays for the first 2 weeks. The token goes crazy because they're like, we love this game. Then they slowly start peeling off. And they're like, actually, when I take the shiny wrapper off, it's kind of like there's no substance under here. And you find your token price at $15. Right. And so it's like what I was trying to protect myself from, I caused. So it's idiocy really, but you learn these lessons and you just gotta move on.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, like that affected the token price a little bit, but at the same time, it's not just Illuvium, it's every game right now. It's most projects actually, unless you're like AI and RWA. But yeah, I know it's hard to find the balance there. One thing that I did want to throw it back to, you're just talking about like, the founder's vision, like you're the founder, trust what you're doing. And it's interesting because I recall, I think one of our first ever calls in summer 2021, and you talked about one day we're going to get into esports, we're going to have arenas, and there's going to be things happening. And now, here we are in 2025, and it's like cool to see that kind of come together with Illuvium Pro League, the refreshed Illuvium Arena. So that's like really exciting. Can you kind of tell us what's happening with Illuvium Pro League, how people can get involved, who it's for, all that?
Sure. Yeah. So our the Illuvium Pro League, pro is a very loose term there. Anyone can join, right? Is the point there? What we do is we run qualifying events prior to the main tournaments. And so anyone's able to come into our Discord, um, join the lobbies and just play, and you can qualify. There's three types of tournaments. There's an IPL 250, 500, and 1,000, and they represent how many points are on offer for each tournament. The points are important. Think of it similar to like tennis or golf or whatever, where the higher your ranking is, the more chance you have of actually being able to enter a tournament. And quite big prize money. So 2 grand for a 250, 5 grand for a 500, and 20K for a 1,000. And then the big, so we play all these tournaments. There's one event per week, all the way up until December. And then we have the World Series events where there's 150,000 up for grabs in a single tournament.
Yeah, that's going to be insane. That's like real proper esports vibes there.
It, and and it's great. Like what you're saying, I remember our conversation back then, and it was a weird situation where I think we'd just been beaten down so hard that when we were talking about starting this league, it was always in the back about, like, we spoke about it and we just delivered on one of the promises we made, 4 or 5 years ago. But none of us were expecting the response. Like immediately, token price, we did $400 million in volume in a single day after we announced this. And we were like, what? Like, yeah, I guess, but it made it real, right? Like, everyone was like, Illuvium, that's the dead gaming token from 2021. But then they're like, hang on a second, there's hundreds of people entering these tournaments, there's big prize money. Maybe they're not dead. So it
Yeah.
does make sense.
So I guess now it's still early days. The market is still a bit harsh. Everything on crypto gaming is a bit harsh. So I'm seeing that on the Illuvium official YouTube channel, you're getting 200 to 400 people per stream for the August ones. We know it's going to pick up in September, October, and stuff like that. But what do you think you can do to drive more people to bring awareness? Because we're seeing that like the core fans of Illuvium know and are getting all excited about this, like you said, the token price, the excitement from the community. But now, how do we get the numbers more up? So, because people would genuinely enjoy participating or watching this in your live stream. So, how do we get those numbers up?
Yeah, and that's the number one priority for me is growth of player numbers. We've seen a pretty big spike since the IPL. We've had a very low player base. Now we've got about 2,000 people that are real players and very, very active. And so, but we've done limited marketing so far. And now, at our peak arena had 70,000 people playing. What our job now to do is go to all of these guilds and communities that have formed over the last 4 or 5 years and go back to them and say, hey, I know you thought we were dead, but we're actually not. Here's our game. And that's what we've started doing. And we're using the IPL as a carrot. As you know, Southeast Asia, LATAM, like $250,000 in prize money for this tournament series is huge money,
Yeah.
even for North Americans, right? Like our number one guy is on track to make more playing Illuvium than he would, just getting a job somewhere in North America, not,
Yeah.
Southeast Asia. So using that as a carrot, actually having a good game now where it's fun to play, it's super sticky, but it's just a lot of raw effort starting those partnerships again, explaining our journey and what went wrong and where we're at now, supporting those communities. That's a big part of it. And we will build it back up. If we were able to get 70,000 people in with a product that I call pretty terrible back 3 years ago, there's no doubt we'll be able to do it again.
Nice. That's exciting. I actually just ran into Gabby here from YGG at
Oh
CoinFest.
yeah.
So are you going to be reaching out to him and YGG and things like that? Like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so many things that we want to do. We're focused pretty heavily on Latin America and Europe and North America, but our Southeast Asia, it's one of those markets where because we don't have mobile yet, it's really really tough. And
Right.
I was an early investor in YGG and in their seed and whatever. And so Gabby and I go way back, and he's a good mate of mine. But it almost always ends in but accessibility. Like our guys, they don't have laptops, or mostly they don't, but they've got phones. So we're building Arena to port over to mobile. Hopefully that will be ready, close to the end of the year or early next year. But that's at the point where we're going to start unlocking Southeast Asia and go really, really hard on those markets. If we do it now, it's kind of going to be a little bit lost, I think.
Okay. That's really cool also though that you're focusing on North America, Europe and Latin America, and then you do have that future build of going to mobile. That's really exciting. And in terms of like future growth and things like that, we have the exciting news of the Pro League and everything that's happening there for September, October, November. But is there any more big things that you can hint at coming out Illuvium in Q3, Q4? Because hopefully that's when the market's pumping and you'll get the most excitement.
Q4, we want to have a full vertical slice. So essentially a demo of the MMO. So all of the things that we're missing, multiplayer, quests, combat, bosses, real progression, loot drops, like all of those things that you would find typically in like a WoW, are coming to the overworld. You will be able to play it this year. And I think that's the moment where people are going to get, like, once we start
Mm-hmm.
sharing a bit of the MMO, I've got boss fight footage, which but they're just editing at the moment. And you're like, okay, this is not even close to what the overworld used to be. Like, this is a proper game now. And I think it starts getting a little bit dangerous for those speculators, right? Like now they see, okay, Illuvium's not dead, tick. Actually, this, Arena is a really good game and it's well received. I'm seeing that from raw feedback from gamers. And now they're even showing footage of an MMO that I think looks amazing that I would want to play. They're listed on Binance, Coinbase, every single major exchange, and they're fully diluted in terms of our tokenomics. There's no unlocks left or anything like that. If I'm an investor, you sort of sit there and you're like, yeah, I hate that I have to do this, but I'm going back here. You know
Yeah.
that
And that's what you want too.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to build. Right? Is I hate those Illuvium guys because I bought in 2021 and they did it, but I have to do it. It goes against everything, all my principles, but I have to do it. And this time we will make sure that we deliver because, me 5 years ago and everyone on my team 5 years ago compared to now, the knowledge that we have, the experience that we have, it's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, you've been put through the ringer and learned all the lessons you need to make things successful, especially if we do have like some token appreciation in autumn. And how does that look for you with your planning and future roadmap? Like these all get released, market's doing well, then I guess easy roadmap. But if market stays not so exciting, how's the build plan looking for that?
So it's interesting. We still have 18 months runway. So it's not dire straits if everyone's predictions of a bull market starting like now and getting really, really wild towards the end of the year. If that doesn't happen, we still generate quite a bit of revenue. Like we're fine, but we do need to start thinking contingency plans and what are we going to do long term. We are definitely going to. I've already started talking to investors, and it's pretty cool because they've actually reached out to us. So it's slowly starting to warm up. But we will need to do another capital raise. At what price we need to do that capital raise is the key here, right? And so if if you can tell by the narrative that we're building here, it's release, 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 like just new, get as much momentum. There's cinematics that will come out for the MMO. We'll show people like the gameplay. They'll actually be able to jump in. I'm hoping that everything lines up to the market blowing up as well. And if people are there sitting there saying like, okay, Illuvium's back and the market is going well, then we should be able to raise at a respectable
Yeah.
valuation. And it's just, that's the game that we're playing now. What everybody buys.
Yeah.
I mean, I had an investor last week who wanted to buy 5 million OTC, and I was like, no, like we can't sell you token. And they went and bought off market.
Oh wow.
Right. So that those conversations with VCs are happening now. I think what if we do our job and they see the vision that we have and how we're actually going to deliver it, I feel like they're going to turn around and say, okay, we're in, but then I can't be in at this price. We've got to protect our treasury.
Absolutely.
And so I'm hoping as we have those conversations, historically, this is what's happened. Those investors, if they can't get what they want now, they usually go and buy off the market, which inadvertently is helping my cause to be able to sell back to them again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's fun, it's interesting, and it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it's coming together. It's nice now that you'll actually have the deliverables. You'll see how the Illuvium Pro League's going. You'll see the development. So I guess we're getting teasers soon in September-ish for the MMO, and then like playable December. Is that what you were saying?
That's what you said, but it sounds pretty close.
Okay, that's exciting. So many reasons to stay involved with Illuvium. Now, one thing that people will be a bit worried now, like we said, we're seeing all the hype potentially coming back. But what do we say to those people, not just from Illuvium, but just like the industry in general? Like, guys, let's just face it, crypto gaming is dead. We've seen from 2021 to now, and they just can't get their head back in. What do we say to those type of people?
It was in its infancy back in 2020, 2021. A lot of experiments, a lot of games that were just building and testing things and, crazy tokenomics and all of this kind of stuff. And it was not in a state where it should have received as much attention as it did. But now we're starting to see things filter through, and the good projects, the ones that are actually building, not to say that they didn't make a whole bunch of mistakes like we did, right? But there's genuine teams that know what they're doing, have really good experience, have great developers, have a decent product, but they just need an extra year, maybe an extra 2 years to get to market. So whereas I thought, crypto gaming would be massive around right now, it's probably going to be an extra, I would say 12 months, 24 months before the actual products, right, start popping up all over the place and can actually compete with mainstream games. Now, tying that back to these people who have invested, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you're down big, right? And you're despondent, you're unhappy, all of those things. But if you've been doing your due diligence on the teams that you've invested in, you will find some teams still building that are going to deliver a really good product. and people are going to go, oh my God, they're going to pile in, the prices are going to go ballistic, and those people will finally be validated, those investors. So, I don't have a solution to make them feel better or whatever. It's just you got to understand that it takes a long time to build a really good game and a good ecosystem and IP. Just give us a little bit more time.
Do you feel then like the token model isn't dead? Because like forget about 2021 when there was like a million different tokens for different things. Let's just focus on Illuvium that has like the main token, and then obviously you have what's happening on with all your different games. But we're hearing so many people say like games don't actually need a token. So now you just presented a thesis why it does make sense to get back into it. But for those people who keep on saying like gaming doesn't need token, it just like, let's use Fortnite as an example. There's no token there. It's just a game got popular and then people started wanting to buy like skins and stuff like that. So like if Fortnite does it without a token, why does like Illuvium or any other game need a token? Like, can you kind of explain it for those people who hate tokens?
We need, so we need a token because it's an opportunity for a retail investor, right, to be able to buy in to the project, right, the studio, if you will. If you could get a piece of Ubisoft early, right, like 15 years ago, you would be loving life, right? That wasn't possible. And so the way that we set up our tokenomics, and the funny thing is so many people now are like token buybacks, like that's the thing. We came up with token revenue distribution. We were the pioneers of that, right? That in our tokenomics. And so the way that it works is every dollar that Illuvium generates, we send that back to the people who are invested in the ecosystem, right? Which is a pretty crazy thought, right? If you got a Fortnite that's printing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue every single month, and that goes back to the people who are staked effectively, not a dividend, but similar, then the network effects of that are insane. The only reason it hasn't blown up and it's like the best practice for every single gaming studio out there is that we haven't been in that period where we're generating tens of millions of dollars of revenue. Because if we were, we would take it, buy ILV off the market. So you see an increase in the token price, and then those tokens get distributed back to the people invested in the ecosystem. So what I would say to those people is, you're 100% right. Does a game need a token in game? No, it doesn't. But that's not why we have a token. We have a token to offer ownership of our project and revenues in perpetuity when you own that token, which is pretty unique.
Yeah, that is really unique. And I guess from that perspective, it's people just got kind of blown away from their first time in investing and realizing things take time. And now, like you said earlier, this 12 to 24 month period is when you'll start to see the games come together. And maybe it is that chance to get into like an Ubisoft early, like back in the day.
Well, that's the thing, right? You can wait 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. But if you wait and they launch and things go parabolic, you're going to be like, I missed the boat, right? So you've got the risk is I've got to make a bet early enough before they release their product. And that's what I was alluding to with us going into the end of this year. You're going to see enough content to make a very informed decision. Like, is this MMO going to hit? Is Arena going to keep on building its player numbers? And if you start, is the team legit? Do they accept accountability for their mistakes? Like all of these things, then you start to paint a picture where it's like, okay, maybe this is actually a decent bet. But again, it is a bet. Anything can happen. It's investing. It's risky. But that's how I invest anyway into projects.
So now we've learned so much, but what should people do from here, whether they're an Illuvium community member or they're just finding out what's the best way for them to get involved in the ecosystem?
Best place is to join our Discord. That's where all of our community movement is, and you'll see announcements there, all that kind of stuff. It's a fun ecosystem. We have sort of like cohorts of land holders, token holders. Then you've got Illuvitar holders. You've got just the pure gamers that don't care about any of the crypto and the tokens, and they're kind of funny. So it's a really vibrant community that we built over 5 years. There's hundreds of thousands of people in there. Join the Discord and then choose what you want to do. If you're a gamer, start playing Arena. If you're an investor, I would, say do your due diligence on us and check us out, and you can find out a lot of info in on the website and stuff like that. But yeah, just jump in and we'll welcome you with open arms.
That sounds great. And is there any other key messages or anything that you feel like we haven't touched on this that you'd like the community to know?
I think that's it. We just want to make it very, very clear to people that we did screw up. We've taken accountability for that, and genuinely. And the last 12 months, we've taken feedback from our players, our communities, our investors, and that is really paying dividends for us to be able to deliver the products that our community wants. And so, yeah, just look out for the next 6 months. It's going to be big for us.
Nice. It's really exciting to hear after all the turmoil in the markets with Illuvium, what was happening. Now we have this Illuvium Pro League. We have a trailer hopefully coming soon in September, and then being able to play the MMO Lite will be really exciting. So a lot to look forward to. Kieran, thanks so much for joining us today at Funjible Games, and we look forward to seeing what happens in the future of Illuvium.